Okay, solve the equation negative 14x to the second power minus 28x equals 0. So, you have to look at the structure, how the equation's structured. The variable is solving for what's it to. It's to the x to the second and x to the first. So when you have those two things, you have to apply your factoring properties. So there's two answers. And now you check your 0 and there's two terms, okay? So that's a binomial. So two terms binomial, you look at GCF and difference of perfect squares. So difference of perfect squares. DOPS, just abbreviate. Okay, so we have x on the end. We have x second and x, so we take an x from each one. There's a negative in front, so we factor out a negative. Then 14 and 28, those are both divisible by 14. Okay, so I will factor out the expression negative 14x from this binomial. So that's 1, and then x second divided by x, you get a 1 cancellation, but there's an x remaining, and then negative 28 divided by negative 14 is positive 2. Okay, so we put our negative 14x out here. Difference of perfect squares, well, they're both positive, so right away we write no. It's got to be a positive and a negative. Okay, so we put the 1x plus 2 right beside it, and then f1, f2. So negative 14x could equal 0, or 1x plus 2 could equal 0. So we'll divide by negative 14 here, and that's going to be 0. So there's your first answer. Then we really don't need the 1 multiplier. We're just going to subtract 2 from both sides, and that's negative 2. Okay, so 0 and negative 2 are the solutions. Okay, my next problem. X to the second power minus 15x equals negative 8x minus 10. So we have x to the second with x. So again, that's going to be your factoring properties. So there's two answers. But I do not have my 0 to run factoring properties, so you need to take out these one at a time. So you add 8x. You can't combine these, so you take them out. And that can go with the 15x and negative 15x, because those are both multiplied by x. Then I have this negative 10 where I have to add 10. Now 10 really doesn't go with 1x second. It can't go with these two because those are for values that are multiplied by x. So the plus 10 hangs up. So we have 0. And we have x to the second, x, and the constant. Okay, 0 right there. So you got 1x second. Then negative 15 plus 8. That's going to be negative 7. And then we got that 10. It's positive now. It was negative, but now it's positive. Okay, so now I see that we have 3 terms. So it's a trinomial, so it'd be GCF T-table. Okay, so no x, no negative, 1, 7, and 10 would be 1. Okay, so 1 times 10 is going to be 10. It's a positive, okay? So that's going to be a match. Because for two things, to find two factors of a positive, the factors have to match the signs. And we are adding to get the b, which is negative 7. So 10 divided by 1 is 10. That's negative 11. 10 divided by 2 is 5. There's your negative 7 right there. Okay, so your A, put in your negative 2, your negative 5 first. So your A is 1x to the second. So x times x Put your 1 in front. Okay, 1 and 2, you can only divide that by 1. And 1 and 5 is only divisible by 1. So 1x minus 2 and 1x minus 5. Okay. Okay, so F1, F2. Okay, so you don't need the times 1 plus 2 plus 2, x equals 2. Plus 5, x equals 5. So 2 and 5 are the answers at the end. Okay, next problem, 8x to the second power plus 6x equals 9. So we have x to the second and x, so we are following the factoring properties again. So there's 2 answers. But again, you have to get your 0, so we need to subtract 9. Now 9 hangs out because it can't be subtracted from 8x to the second or 6x, so it hangs out. So we get 0. So 8, 6, negative 9. So that's 3 terms, okay? GCF T-table. Okay, so no x, no negative, 8, 6, and 9. 8, 6, and 9 are in the 1 row. So 8 times negative 9, that's going to be negative 72. Okay, you got to be paced. This is a mismatch. 2 factors of a negative, you'd have to have a positive and a negative, 1 of each factor. We're adding to try to get to positive 6. So 72 divided by 1 is 72. That's negative 71. 72 divided by 2 is 36. Okay. It's negative 34. That's too wide. 3 and 24. So add those. That's negative 21. That's too wide. 4 and 18. Add those, it's negative 14, that's too wide. 72 divided by 5 is a decimal. 72 divided by 6 is 12. Now that's going to be right on the money because when you add these, that's negative 6. You just need to make it into a positive 6 by going positive 12 and negative 6. So the A, first off, put in your parentheses. So negative 6, positive 12. Now A is 8x to the second power. Okay, so you're going to go xx, and you're going to apply your 8 in front of it. So 8 and 6. 8 and 6 should both be divisible by 2. Okay. Now 8 and 12. 8 and 12 are divisible both by 4. So this becomes 4x minus 3, and this becomes 2x plus 3. Now, before you list them over here, make sure that the 4 and the 2 multiply to the 8x second. They do. Make sure the negative 3 and the 3 multiply to the end, the negative 9. They do. 4x minus 3 times 2x plus 3 equals 0. So F1, F2. Okay, so you got multiplication by 4, so you add 3 to both sides and you get 3. And 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. You could also leave it 3/4 if you want. Alright, here you got times 2, so you subtract 3 and you get negative 3. Then we divide by 2. Negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 1.5. There you go. Okay, 48 minus 1x to the second equals negative 52. Now, we have x to the second only here. So x, the only power, x is only, the x I'm trying to solve for only has one power to the second. So that is linear properties. You are not factoring. Okay. So you put how many answers you got. Put how many answers there are. Then collect the x terms. If you have more than one, we just have one right here. Now solve. Now what are your operations? Well, 48 and 1 is a minus. I'm going to make that plus negative. And then the negative 1 in the x is a times. And then you have x to the second. So circle the multiplication portion. And you're going to minus your 48. Then you're going to divide by your negative 1. And then you get rid of your second power with a square root. So that's negative 100. And then divide by negative 1. Then you find the square root. Okay, positive, negative, and then 100's 10, 10. So 10. So it could be 10, negative 10. Okay, my next problem, we have 3x to the third power plus 18x to the second power plus 24x equals 0. Okay. So for x's, I have x to the third, x to the second, and x. Obviously, we are using our factoring properties here. So 3 answers. And the zeros here, now I have 3 terms. The 3x third, the 18x second, 24x. So it's 3 terms, so it's going to be GCF and table once again. So do we have x at x third, x second, x? So everything's got a factor of x. So we take the end x. And then no negative. 3, 18, and 24. Those are all divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. X third divided by x. Leaves me with the remainder of x to the second. Plus 6. X second divided by x. Leaves me with the remainder of x. 24 divided by 3 is 8. X divided by x wipes it out. So we take that 3x GCF, that's going to be F1. Now, ABC. So 1 times 8 is 8. It's positive 8. So that's a match. And you have to add to positive 6. Okay. So 8 divided by 1 is 8. That's negative 9. That's too wide. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I add those. That's negative 6. So stop dividing. You have the right pair. You just need to make it into positive 6 with double positives. Now it's positive 6 and it still matches. So A is 1x to the second. So 1, 1, 1. Remember, A is 1x second. That 3x I want crossed out. And this crap, okay? X seconds multiplied by 1. 1, 1, 1. So you'd only divide these by 1, okay? There you go. So now you put times 1x plus 2 times 1x plus 4 equals 0, and you solve it. So F1, F2, F3. So 3x could equal 0, 1x plus 2 could equal 0, 1x plus 4 could equal 0. So we'll divide by 3 here, and that'll be 0. Multiplication by 1, you can get rid of the 1 and subtract 2, and that's negative 2. Then you have multiplication by 1 again, so you can get rid of that and just subtract 4, and you get negative 4. So 0, negative 2, negative 4. Okay, next problem. 2x to the third power plus 3x to the second power minus 8x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, so we have x third, we have x second, we have x. So that's factoring properties. This one's going to be different because you've got the 0, but now you have 4 terms instead of 3. So 4 terms, we have to go the grouping route, and then difference of perfect squares. Okay, so GCF, and we put the 2x to the third plus the 3x to the second, and we put the negative 8x minus the 12. So we have x to the second at the end, okay? So when I have an x third, x second in the two things I'm looking at, okay, x second's got to be the one that's factored out, so no negative. Then 2 and 3 is a 1. Okay, now here there's no x on the 12. There's an x on the 8, but not on the 12, so we have no business factoring out an x. There's a negative, then 8 and 12, that'd be 4. So we're going to divide by 1x to the second here, and we're going to divide by negative 4 here. So 2 divided by 1 is 2, x third divided by x to the second. Got a remainder of x. 3 divided by 1 is 3. That cancels. Now here you have 2x plus 3. So you have 2x plus 3 in each of your parentheses, so you'll factor that out. You have to keep the 2 around. You can't get rid of it like you can with a 1. Then here we have 1x second minus 4. Now you can take the 1 off here. Now you have to check that second one and see if it's a difference of perfect squares. So that 2x plus 3 is pretty much finished. That is going to be a factor. But we have a positive and a negative, which is always the difference, okay? Are these perfect squares? Well, yeah, x second is x times x. And 4 is 2 times 2. You don't know what the x second value is, but you know that it to the second power could be just xx. So xx, 2, 2. So instead of that one, we want to put the x plus 2 times the x minus 2. Okay? So f1, f2, f3. So 2x plus 3 could equal 0. X plus 2 could equal 0. X minus 2 could equal 0. So I subtract 3, I get negative 3. Negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 1.5. Then minus 2, that's negative 2. Plus 2, that's positive 2. Okay, negative 3x to the second power plus 30x equals 0. So you have x to the second and x. So that's back to your factoring properties. Actually, stay with factoring properties. There's 2 answers. Okay, 0's there. Now count the terms. It appears this one we just have 2. The negative 3 multiplied by x second and the 30 that's multiplied by x. So that would be GCF. And then checking to see that we have a difference of perfect squares. Okay, x at the end, nope. Yeah, we do. Negative in front, yes. 3 and 30 would be 3. So I factor out negative 3x, and then I go up and divide by negative 3x. So that's 1 x second divided by x. So you have a remainder of x. 30 divided by negative 3 is negative 10. Then the x divided by x is just a wipeout. So now check this. You have a positive and a negative, so yeah, that's difference. And 1, yeah, 1 is 1 times 1, but then the x doesn't have a second power, so then I write no. Okay, I don't worry about that 1 times 1 because I hit, once I got to the x, I knew I couldn't do it. So 1x minus 10. That's factored into two linear, a monomial and a binomial. So negative 3x equals 0, 1x minus 10 equals 0. So I divide by negative 3 here, and I get 0. Here I don't need the multiplier of 1, just get rid of it. Add 10 to both sides, and x equals 10. Okay, x to the second power minus 6x minus 27 equals 0. So you have x second and x, that is factoring properties. So 0's there, check it. There's 2 answers, by the way. So you got 3 terms, okay? GCF table. Okay, no x, no negative, then 1, 6, and 27 is just 1, okay? So 1 times negative 27 is negative 27, so that is a mismatch. It's a positive times a negative, it's got to add to negative 6. 1 and 27, that's negative 26, nope. 27 divided by 2 is a decimal. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So 3 plus negative 9, there's your negative 6. So positive 3, negative 9. And x times x. And then 1. Okay, 1 and 3, only 1 would be, so if you're dividing it by 1, it really just stays the same. So 1x plus 3, 1x minus 9. Okay, so F1, F2. Okay, you don't need the times 1, just minus 3 from both sides, and that would be negative 3. Plus 9, and that would be 9. You don't need the times 1. Okay, 10x to the second power minus 1x minus 2 equals 0. So we have x to the second with x. That's again factoring properties. So there would be 2 answers to this. 0's there, so there's 3 terms. Okay, so GCF and the table. So at no x on the end, no negative in front, 10, 1, and 2 are just 1. Okay. Okay, so the AC product, 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. So that's a mismatch. It's got to add to the B, which is negative 1. So 1 and 20, that's negative 19. 20 divided by 2 is 10. That adds to negative 8. That's wide. 20 divided by 3 is a decimal, but 20 divided by 4 then is 5. Negative 1. There's your negative 1. Okay. So A equals 10x to the second power. So you put in your positive 4, negative 5. So x times x, and then you place the tens in front, because it is not 1. Okay, so 10 and 4, that would be 2. 10 and 5 would be 5. So this ends up as 5x plus 2 and 2x minus 1. Now, again, the numbers in front of the x's, 5 times 2 should be this. Okay? Numbers behind them, 2 times negative 1 should be this. Then negative 5x, positive 4x, negative 1x. So F1, F2. So 5x plus 2 equals 0, 2x minus 1 equals 0. Five times x equals negative 2, then divide by 5. You can get negative 0.4, or you can put negative 2/5, I don't care. Then here, you can add 1, that would be 1. Then divide by 2. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5, or you can keep it 1 over 2. Okay, then the last one's a quick one. 4x minus 8 equals 0. You have x only here, Holmes. Okay, so that's not factoring, that's linear properties. But there wouldn't be 2 answers because it's not to the second. There would be just 1 answer. So linear properties, fill out how many answers there are. We already did that. Collect the x terms. If you have more than 1, we just have a single x term, and then you solve. This is what solving means. Get the x by itself. So it's multiplied by 4, and it has minus 8. There's no second power, so we just get rid of the minus 8 with plus 8. We get rid of the times 4 with divide by 4. Divide by 4. You're not doing a second power either. Okay, so you don't square root the 4 because the x isn't to the second power. X is just equal to 4.